So we've created a unit test to force the creation of the add method. We have created the add method on the shopping cart, and we're set to move along and add actual functionality to the shopping cart. Let's go back and see what we actually need to do with regards to add. What are we adding into our shopping cart? Here are our requirements. Point 1 must be able to add items to the shopping cart. We've got the add method. We're not adding any items to the shopping cart. What is an item anyway? Right, each item represents a quantity of one product, like 1 apple, 5 bananas, 3 Porsches. Okay, cool. We can do this. So we probably want to have a couple of parameters ultimately, a product and a quantity of product. Why don't we take a look at maybe adding a product first? Okay, so if we're moving down this particular avenue, so all right, we're going to add a product, there's going to be a product parameter. That's fine and good. Let's take a look at the gold and the thorns. Okay, we're back on the thorns and the gold slide, and now that we're looking at creating a product parameter, adding a product onto our add method because we want to add product, and then later on a quantity of product into our shopping cart. How are we going to do this? So we should first look at thorns. Is there any supporting data that we will need with regards to thorns? No. Probably not. I think it's pretty fair to say that if we're adding the product into our shopping cart, there probably isn't any supporting data. I don't think that makes sense at this point in time. Are there any degenerate conditions? Probably not either. They would be along the lines of maybe adding 0 quantity. I could see that might be, but then that might be more like error scenarios, exception scenarios. I can see a particular exception scenario that would be relevant. So moving immediately to point number 3, which is we're adding a product into our shopping cart to start with without a particular quantity. Let's just ignore that, one thing at a time. Okay, what could be a exception scenario that we want to be aware of? How about we're adding like a null product. Product will be a reference type with certain properties on it, like a name and a unit price. What could be some of the problems that we have there? What would be an invalid product? Given the product will be a reference type, what might be an invalid product? How about a null product? Could we have that? Could we have null product being passed into us? Yes, I mean, our shopping cart is a client, and external callers can pass it a null product also. So why don't we go ahead and write up a unit test where we get passed in null product into our add and then see what happened. Let's switch to Visual Studio now. Alright, I'm in Visual Studio now, and we're going to write this new unit test. As usual, we write the unit test first, and we're going to make it fact public void. I'm going to be using the given, when, then way of naming the unit test, which is given a certain precondition. When we undertake the action, then there is a certain post condition. The precondition will be that we don't have a product, or we have a null product. I'm going to call it given no product when call add, then what should we do then? When there is no product, as in we have a null product, what should happen? Well, a null product is going to be problematic. A null product we won't be able to do anything with. So what we'll do is we will need to communicate to the caller that this is a problem, and the best way of doing that is through an exception. So we're going to throw a missing product exception. Right, so throw missing product exception. Okay, that works. Given no product, when call add, then throw missing product exception. I think that's got a nice ring to it. It explains in business terms what's going on when we don't have a product and we try and add. Then we're going to bubble up an exception. We're going to throw an exception. As usual, we will need to have a cart, a shopping cart. So let's create that now. Var cart is equal to new shopping cart. And we will need to detect that an exception has been thrown. The best way to do that with fluent assertions is to actually assign the call to add into a delegate, and we'll do this now, and then call the delegate and detect that we've thrown an exception. You'll see what I mean in a second. Let me just write this. So action, and I'm going to call this add because that's what we're doing, is equal to, oops. So that goes to cart.add, and we want to have no product, call add with no product. So I'm going to put the null in here. That's the condition for no product. A null product means no product. Okay, and we've already got a little bit of a problem. Okay, it says no overload for method add takes one argument. So let's fix that first. So object product. I haven't created a product class yet. It isn't necessary, so I've just gone with the default base class for everything, which is object, just object product. We will at some stage want to give these strong types, like product and other kind of classes that will be involved here, but for the time being we will be okay just with product. Alright, let's carry on back to the test and carry on with that. Add dot should, and then we want to go throw exactly, and here we're going to call it missing product. Oops, missing product. The way I like to name my specific exceptions is I don't like to have an exception suffix, so I don't call them missing product exception. I just call them missing product, because from the name itself it is clear that this is an error condition, and just the way we will be using missing product, we're going to be throwing it and we're going to be catching it, or someone else somewhere is going to be catching missing product. It will be clear that this is an exception that we're dealing with. Therefore, this is the way I prefer to name it. It's shorter as well, and it's quite clear it's an error. Alright, we need to create missing product with a compilation error. And I'll do that underneath the shopping cart, because the shopping cart really is sort of the central class. Anything else has got a lesser importance, so therefore can come along below the shopping cart. Public class a missing product, and we're going to derive that from exception. Alright. And for the time being, there really isn't anything further we need to do. Okay. Here is a problem. Our scaffolding unit test can call add that we used to stand up the add method in the first instance is now complaining. Add needs an argument. This was a scaffolding unit test and was only existed to stand up the add method as I just said. It's no longer required. We're now calling add in a different manner with a parameter. We can remove this. It is no longer required. It's okay to delete some unit tests that are no longer required. In fact, it's an obligation. If it's no longer required, we should remove it. Alright, so let's run the unit test and see what happens. It says expected missing product, but no exception was thrown. We need to throw a missing product exception. How do we do this? Over to you, please. How do you make this unit test pass? We've got the 3 rules of TDD. We've written the unit test, and now rule number 3, only write enough production code to make the failing test pass. With this in mind, how do you make this unit test pass? Only write the minimum production code to pass the unit test. Please take a minute and think about the problem. Hopefully you followed along, or you've gotten the code from GitHub and you can now make this test pass. Please take a minute now, or however long you need. And if you take 10 minutes or half an hour, it doesn't really matter. Take some time, think about how to make this unit test pass. I'll see you shortly. Alright, how did you go? Did you manage to pass the unit test? As per rule number 3, we're only meant to write the minimum amount of production code. And the minimum amount of production code to make this unit test pass is simply this. Throw new missing product. Here we go. I'll run the unit test, see what happens. Excellent. We got the green tick. It means the unit test is now passing. Obviously, at some point in time, we will have to have a null check on product, but right here, right now, we don't. We always want to write the minimum amount of production code. Always follow rule number 3. As we move on to the next unit test and try and make that pass, we will then need to write the null check. So oftentimes we're lagging a little bit behind in our implementation code by a cycle with regards to the test code. Okay, so we've had a failing test, we've made it green. The next step is refactor. Is there any refactoring we can do? Looking at the unit test code, that looks very tight and clean, and there probably isn't too much we can do there. And with regards to the add method and the code we've written there, obviously that's not complete yet, but what we have to have right here, right now, this code will do the trick. There is no refactoring we can do there. Let's carry on to the next video. I'll talk a little bit about exceptions and we'll extend this unit test to include an exception message. See you soon.